Hi dear students, I hope all doing good. Today I am going to discuss about the limit test for chloride. Before we discuss about limit test for chloride, first we are going to know what is limit test. Okay, limit test are quantitative or a semi-quantitative test designed to identify and control small quantities of impurities which are likely to be present in the substances. It means limit test is a type of a quantitative or a semi-quantitative test that are developed or a designed. It has a set of a procedures to identify and control small quantities of a impurities which are present in the official substances or a drug substances. Okay, then the quantity of any one impurity in an official substances is often small, and consequently the visible reaction response to any test for that impurity is also small. It means that the limit test is generally a visible reaction. Okay, we have to compare the reaction, we have to compare the turbidity, or we have to compare the opalescence of a test solution with the standard solution. Okay, in that if any test sample or if any substances under the test containing a small quantities of a impurity, then visible reaction responses to that particular test is also a small. Okay, then the design of individual test is therefore important if errors are to be avoided in the hands of a different apparatus. Okay, each individual limit test for a different impurities, it should be designed individually for that particular impurity in order to avoid the errors in the hands of a different apparatus. This is about limit test. Okay, next we are going to discuss about limit test for a chloride. Okay, chloride is one of the major impurity which is left behind in all the pharmaceutical substances. The major source for chloride is tap water, hydrochloric acid, sodium chloride. These are all the major source for a chloride impurity. If you use tap water for washing any glasswares or any apparatus used for the preparation of any drug, there may be chances of getting chloride as a impurity in the final product. That's why we use distilled water or a demineralized water for washing all the glasswares. Okay, next, if you use any sodium chloride reagent during any preparation, it also may there may be chances of getting chloride impurity in the drug substances. Next we are going to discuss about principle. What is the principle involved in the limit test for a chloride? The basic principle involved in the limit test for a chloride is based upon the reaction between silver nitrate and a soluble chloride in the presence of dilute nitric acid that gives a silver chloride. That silver chloride is responsible for a white turbidity, or a opalescence. Okay, next in we have to compare the turbidity of a test solution with the standard solution. It means if the turbidity of a test solution is less compared to the standard solution, it means it contains a less amount of impurity, then it passes the limit test for a chloride. If a turbidity present in a test solution is more than the standard solution, it means it contains a more amount of a impurity than the standard solution, then it fails the limit test. It is a reaction present in the this is the reaction. AgNO3 reacts with the chloride in the presence of a dilute nitric acid. It gives a silver chloride. Okay, next, why we added the dilute nitric acid? Dilute nitric acid prevents the precipitation of other impurities than the chloride. Okay, we have to add the nitric acid that prevents the precipitation of other impurities in order to get a accurate result. Okay, next comes to the apparatus and the chemicals. For performing a limit test, we require one Nessler cylinder, two Nessler cylinders, glass rod stand, and chemicals required dilute nitric acid, silver nitrate, and sodium chloride. Nessler cylinder. Okay, we get it in a different volumes. We get a 50 ml Nessler cylinder and 100 ml Nessler cylinder. It is made up of a borosilicate glass, and we have a two markings. One it is a 50 ml or a 100 ml, or we get a 25 ml marking and 50 ml marking. Next comes to the procedure. Procedure for a chloride limit test. Procedure for chloride limit test. Okay, here we have to take a two Nessler cylinder and marking as a test and a standard. For test, we have to take a specified weight amount of a compound and dissolve it in a water. For standard, we have to take a 1 ml of 0.05845% weight by volume solution of a sodium chloride in a Nessler cylinder. Okay, then we have to add 1 ml of nitric acid to both standard and a test. Okay, next dilute to 50 ml in a Nessler cylinder. Dilute to 50 ml in a Nessler cylinder and add 1 ml of silver nitrate to both the solution, to both the Nessler cylinder. that is test and a standard. Next, keep aside for 5 minutes and observe the opalescence or a turbidity. Observe the opalescence or turbidity. Okay, I already told that we have to compare the turbidity or a opalescence of a test solution with the standard solution. Here, observation. We have to compare the turbidity or a opalescence of a test solution with the standard solution. If opalescence or a turbidity produced in a sample solution is less than the standard solution, the sample will passes the limit test for a chloride or a vice versa. Vice versa means if a opalescence produced in a sample solution is more than the standard solution, it means the sample will fail the limit test for a chloride. Okay. Results and conclusion. If the opalescence in the sample is less than the standard, it passes the test. If it is more than the standard, it fails the test. For comparison of a turbidity for different substances with varying amount of impurity, the amount of substances to be used is varied and not the standard turbidity. Pharmacopoeia do not give a numerical values to the limit as it is not practicable, as it is content with influenced to great extent by large quantities of substances present in a compound substances present. It means we have to compare the opalescence or a turbidity produced in a test solution compared with the standard solution. If a turbidity present if a more turbidity present in a test solution compared to the standard solution, it means it fails the limit test. Here, pharmacopoeia do not give any numerical values to the limit. Okay, we have to compare the turbidity of a test solution with the turbidity of a standard solution. It means if a sample contain the or a test sample contain the less amount of impurity compared to the standard solution, means it passes the limit test. Or turbidity of a test solution is more compared to the standard solution, means it contains a more amount of impurity beyond the limit, then it fails the limit test.